And welcome back. Here we are with another weekend recap. This time it's another conference championship recap, the outdoor version, and what a doozy. We had a phenomenal weekend. Here in Atlanta, I got to enjoy the ACC championships, and I'll be sharing with you a couple of clips from the 200-meter champions, Deja DeFran of Florida State and Judson Lincoln, the fourth of Virginia Tech. Just two very talented athletes, and I had already shared the video of Judson Lincoln's 400-meter as I had seen it live and recorded it live, and at the time it was the number one time in the country. But of course, thanks to the SEC, it changed. And what a meet that was. But overall, what an incredible weekend from all the major conferences. And let's not even ignore there were great times from a lot of the smaller conferences. I mean, South Florida's 4x1 is going to make some people really uncomfortable at nationals. And Eastern Michigan seeing Almighty Williamson do so well in the 110 hurdles. And then you had an array of talent competing at Conference USA. I mean, what a great weekend. We're going to recap here. There were a total of 14 new number ones. I'll do a recap of what I felt about the ACC championships at the end. But let's get started right away. And we're going to do our usual four-leg format, but it'll be different today. Our first leg will be the track events. Second leg will be the field events. The third leg will be the matchup recap. Some of the big matchups that I had thought going in would be great. We'll recap some of those because some of those did turn out to be really good. And then we'll do our anchor leg is the team title picture. There's been some clarity, for some teams, uncomfortable clarity. And I think they may rebound, but we'll have a very interesting discussion when we look at the team title race. But let's get started with the track events and we'll go to the men's side for this year. And we'll start right away in the 200-meter dash. Tarsus Oracle of Alabama at the SEC Championships 1975. I am not making a mistake when I say that. That's not an error. 19.75. The fifth fastest time in NCAA history. One of the best times in the world. We already knew we were more likely going to see him at the Olympics. I think he's kind of cemented himself as the guy in the 200 this outdoor season. Robert Gregory's, not on his game. Good to see Wanya McCoy of Florida come back and run that 19.9. But there really, anyone who beat him last year does not seem to be up to the task this outdoor season. He really looks solid for Alabama, and they look in phenomenal shape as a team. And he was just one of the many highlights from the SEC, and I think he's ready to sort of put the trophy in his title case. And we'll do a prediction show obviously before the championships, and there's still regionals to go. But at this point in the season, it's really been Tarsus Orgo of Alabama pretty much majority of the year. The 400, we'll look at Christopher Morales Williams of Georgia. He lived up to the hype. We were waiting to see him drop that big 400, and he did it at the SEC Championships right after running at the World Relays for Canada. He represented Georgia in such a great way, and Georgia's 400-meter program is on the way up. Yesterday's price is not today's price. Carol Smith Gilbert and her staff, two huge thumbs up. Outstanding job by them. 44.05. And that is currently a new world number one. And, I think we need to get comfortable with his name because he is going to represent Canada and he is a big gun and he's going to be mentioned a lot come Paris and he looks ready for it. So outstanding job by this young man. I look forward to seeing what else he does later this season. And a name that I have not mentioned here, burst onto the scene. He's a freshman at Auburn University, Jacoby Tharp in the 110 hurdles. 13-18? Have we ever seen a freshman this fast? No. Think of all the great freshmen. Terrence Trammell of South Carolina, Kenneth Ferguson of South Carolina, from Detroit Monfort High School. There's been an array of really great, talented young 110 hurdles. Grant Holloway, 13-18? Oh, my goodness. And he did that celebrating across the line, which tells us he can improve upon that time. And his technique is flawless. Things clearly going well for Leroy Burrell at Auburn. It maybe he needed a change of scenery leaving Houston because I never thought he would leave Houston. But him at Auburn right now looks perfect. What a great coaching hire they made. Because I just think Auburn is going to just take another leap up and we're going to go back to competing regularly for national titles. And then LSU's 4x1. And I really, really wish I could get a really good picture from this past weekend, but it's hard to get them all loaded because there weren't that many. Everyone just wanted to share the video. 38-19. Um, I am pretty convinced that they're going to reset the NCAA record at the championships. This is probably the most talented group of 100 runners put together with great exchanges. Auburn is close. I really thought Auburn would give them more of a race. But we can't ignore what LSU was doing. And they have an outstanding anchor in Godson Ojini Brume, who is going to represent Nigeria well. And look out, because Nigeria looks like a serious medal contender. We can't forget Favre Ash of Auburn or Udodi Umazurike last year of Stanford, now running for. I mean, Nigeria clearly is back at being a sprint power, and years to come is where things will get really interesting. I mean, is the new young crop of Nigerian sprinters. I think really will represent their country very well, and they're going to be insanely competitive. And we need to be prepared for them to win a gold in one of these major championships. It's going to happen. They have so much young talent, and if nurtured properly, things can go very well. Another relay, Arkansas men's 4x4, and that was a race. I thought for sure, because Florida's got that wonderful chant at the end on their home track. It was wire to wire, and I thought they were going to get it, and Arkansas didn't let up. Benson held on to that. And they've been smart the past few years with their men's 4x4. They've been picking the right anchors. And he's the next guy to really anchor them well. Held the baton, and he held off Alabama because Caleb McRae was coming. 2:59.03. In Florida, 2:59.4. And Alabama, 2:59.07. What a race. 3 sub-3-minute performances. And now it's the foregone conclusion. If you don't have a sub-3-minute 4x4, you are not competing for real. And think about all the things we had said about Texas A&M, and we thought they were fourth. And they still had a great anchor from Ahmad Robinson, who probably didn't have the championship he was looking for. I think we thought he would be the main challenger to Christopher Morales-Williams, and he was not. Probably he'll take this and improve, but that 4x4 race by Arkansas, outstanding. Just outstanding. Great anchor leg by Benson. Moving to the women's side, and this is actually a recap of our matchup. The 200, Mackenzie Long of Ole Miss, the new NCAA leader in the 200, win legal 22:03. And it's funny to say, probably about 7 or 8 years ago, 22:04, maybe even 10, because I don't know how long it's been since Kyra Jefferson has set that new national record. 22:04 was the national record for almost 20 years. In fact, got very close. It's probably 25 years, if I'm not, it's probably longer than that. Dawn Sewell had held that record forever, and the 100 one was shocking when Sha'Carri Richardson broke it. The 200 was also shocking because we just thought, oh my God, that's such a great performance, because 22:04, even at that time when it was broken, still would have gotten you a medal on a world stage. So to see Mackenzie Long run 22:03, and we know she's got a one-dated sub-22 performance in her pocket, we might see a sub-22 win legal from her this year. So she can now become a threat for Team USA. So let's keep an eye out on this talented young woman. And Ole Miss impressed because they almost took out Tennessee in the 4x1, and they took out LSU. And LSU had an incredible weekend. Moving to the 400, you have Nikisha Price of Arkansas by way of Jamaica, who is now our new world leader at the 400 meters, 49:32. And I think at this point, and I've said it probably for the past year, Arkansas is the best program for 400-meter runners, and they proved it this weekend. Nobody in NCAA history, and very few countries, in fact, only 4, have had 3 sub-50 runners all at one time. Not only did Nikisha Price run a 49:32, but Kaylin Brown ran a 49:4, and she's a freshman. I want to say she's almost broken or has broken Chandra Cheeseborough's American junior record. And then you had Amber Anning, who ran a 49.5, no slouch. And then you had Rosie F. Young finally step up, and she finished seventh, running a 50 point. Keep in mind, it didn't say 51 or 52. It said 50 point was seventh place at the SEC. 50.75. That puts Arkansas's team in the reign of Team USA, Team Jamaica, Russia. I mean, the Germans. This was an incredible performance by their 400-meter runners. They are the school of the quarter horses right now for women's 400. Give a shout out to the coaching staff because clearly they know what they're doing. And I think this reminds me a lot of the great Texas teams under Bev Kearney, and for a short period the South Carolina teams under Curtis Fry, where they just simply had great 400-meter depth. But really, those Texas teams under Bev Kearney, I want to say from like '98 to about 2004 or 5, when they just had 2 to 3 solid quarter milers and always had a 4x4 that was in it. Just hats off. But to Nikisha Price, our new world leader, 49.32, and I think possibly soon, maybe even a new NCAA record holder. At this point, can we give her the title? Because she did beat Anning one-on-one, her teammate, and she knows what she's capable of. Our other number one, Grace Stark of Florida. If you didn't see that video go around, she got shot out of the blocks and attacked every single hurdle. And she clearly knew she was on her home track. And let's just be fair, Florida did not have the weekend they wanted in front of those alums. She clearly was one of the bright spots. 12.53 in the 100 hurdles. I think it's time we give her serious consideration to possibly make Team USA. It's going to be very hard. It's one of the deepest events the Americans have. 12.53 is no slouch. She did it beating those LSU hurdlers. As I said, it was going to be Grace Stark versus LSU hurdlers, and winner, Grace Stark. Huge 10 team points for Florida, and a huge performance for Grace to really kind of solidify her as the number one hurdler this outdoor season. And then her biggest challenger had a phenomenal weekend in the 400 hurdles. Jasmine Jones of USC. Her time is 53.87, but it was ran at Colorado's track, so it was at altitude, so it gets translated to 53.98. Either way, it's a new NCAA number one. And Jasmine Jones slowly but surely coming out to the outdoor season at a slow pace normally. And I think it's because she's preparing mainly for Paris, or really the U.S. Olympic trials, not necessarily to win an NCAA title. I honestly think she probably could go win the 400 hurdles and the 100 hurdles. I think when it comes to the outdoor season, we may see her go 100 hurdles beating Grace Stark, 400 hurdles beating Savannah Sutherland of Michigan. This is going to be a really interesting NCAA championship. I'm really kind of curious to see who's going to actually, compete, because still athletes could say, you know what, I've gotten as far as I want to go with the collegiate season. Let me just kind of pause and get ready for the trials. That's happened before. So we, remain to be seen. We're kind of left at the mercy of what the start lists say and what the athletes say. But Jasmine Jones, that's a big number one, because she's our first sub-54 400 hurdler in a while. Then the two relays from Tennessee. Dwayne Ross has built Tennessee back up. I think things have happened a lot more smoother on the women's side. And this is not to knock the men's side, because he clearly has some horses. I think he has some injury issues on the men's side. But on the women's side, things have gotten really well. 42-42 in the 4x1. 324-44 to win the 4x4 at the SEC and take the number one time. Granted, Arkansas's got that great group, and none of those big guns ran the 4x4. Why? We don't know. Hopefully, we finally get to see them run all together, because that actually has not happened at all this year. We are still waiting to see Arkansas's best, and I really do think not only are they capable of sub 320, I think they might even be ready to run 318, which just would be a record I think would sit there for a very long time. But hats off to Tennessee, number one in both 4x1 and 4x4. That is an incredible performance, and that almost never happens in the same weekend. And our second leg is a little bit shorter. It's the field events, and we'll start with the men. Tyus Wilson of Nebraska, a name we have not mentioned, but a school we have. Nebraska regularly puts out great field event athletes, and as I've said on this channel plenty of times before, they are very good when it comes to the technical side of track and the technical side of field. This is another bright spot of that. Him taking the NCAA lead with a jump of 7 feet 6, 2.29 meters. Tyus Wilson, welcome to the main stage because that's not a mark we're going to ignore. He's going to be around. And then you turn to the shot put, and it was Tariq Robinson O'Hagan of Ole Miss. He prevailed over those great South Carolina throwers, 68 feet 5 inches, 20.85 meters, a new NCAA lead in the shot put. Hats off to him for stepping up and actually showing up against what was a great field at the SEC meet. I mean, those were some great throws, and to see him kind of come out on top, and hats off to Ole Miss because things didn't always go their way this weekend with some of their throwers, but he was one of the ones where it went well. On the women's side of the field events, we had one major performance, and it was a doozy because it was Akeelia Smith of Texas. I thought indoor season she could possibly sweep the long jump and the triple jump. Things didn't go her way um, indoors. Ended up having to leave the competition and just kind of had a disappointing end to her great indoor season, but she's having a great outdoor season. Now she's the NCAA lead in not just the long jump, but the triple jump after winning the Big 12 with a 45 feet, 8-inch jump, 13.92 meters, as Texas says au revoir to the Big 12 and heads to the SEC. Yes, Texas and Oklahoma are coming to the SEC. If you thought it was bad this year, next year, whew, things are going. That track may burn up at Lexington, Kentucky. The field jump pit may explode. The shot put arena may look like bombs have landed. So it's going to be a great SEC meet next year and for years to come. But hats off to Akeelia Smith, 45 feet 8, 13.92 meters. Excellent performance in the triple jump. Now, our third leg, we're going to do some matchup recaps because there were some big ones. And we had Christopher Morales versus the SEC was one that was curious to see who else would step up. And shout out to Caleb McRae. He put together a pretty solid performance, but it was no match for the rest of for Christopher Morales Williams and his teammate. 44.05, he is number one in the country and solidified himself as that guy. And I think any questions or any doubt anyone has had in regards to him can kind of end at this point. Things can change. I mean, you have Samuel Ghazi, the freshman of Alabama, running a 44.58. Judson Lincoln, who I did share a video with on my YouTube channel, 44.60. And Johnny Lockberger, whose time converts to a 44.62, and Caleb McRae, 44.68. So we're seeing the 44s. The top 7 guys in the country are now sub 45. So I think the next preview we'll do is Christopher Morales Williams versus the field, as I still think he's going to be that guy. 44.05 is no slouching time. At one point in time, 44 flat was the NCAA record, so he really would have been, knock on the doorstep. Now we're expecting to see him give us that 43 performance we've been waiting for all season because last year we didn't get it. So we are looking for our 43 400-meter runner. Will it be him? And I think it will. Another matchup was the SEC 4x1. You had 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the country at that time going against each other. And LSU came out on top 38-19. Then you had 38-5 from Auburn, Florida 38-7. But here was the bigger shock, and we can't ignore that. Again, South Florida ran 38-44. So they're going to be there come championship time. They're going to make some people feel bad. And you know who also ran well? Houston, 38-44. So it's no longer SEC 1, 2, 3, 4. It is now SEC 1. Because 2 and 3, Big 12 and the South Florida Bulls are from the AAC. So things getting a little interesting on the national rankings. Because right now we're looking at about 6 teams that can run, 6 or 7 teams that can run sub 39. So, like last year, we're probably looking at a race where, in order to make the finals, you had better be running sub 39 going in. So, things are going to get interesting very quickly following regionals. And then, I'll say this is probably the big disappointment was there was no major 100 matchup. You had great 100-meter performances, but the Big 12 we weren't witnesses to that. Obviously, because the weather did not participate. And then SEC Favor Ash of Auburn, who it was noted online. Why does he not show up in the finals? He'll run well in prelims. He'll run well at little invitationals, but at championship meets, why is he always absent in the final? How is that going to bode well for his professional career? So hopefully there's no injury and that we're going to see him at regionals and that we're going to see him at nationals. Or this could be the time that he decided after the prelim, okay, I'm ready to turn pro. Remains to be seen. But that was a big disappointment because I really wanted to see him go up against Tamaris McCullum of Tennessee, who actually didn't get first or second. He was third. The race ended up being between Godson of LSU and Wanya McCoy of Florida. And they gave us a great race, 999 to 1002. So things working out very well for those two young sprinters. And I look forward to seeing what else they will do later this season. The thing that I also want to note is this was a matchup that I literally said I should have included after watching it live. Being at the ACC Championship, I got to watch Parker Wolf. His 5,000, I literally kid you not, he sprinted the last 3 laps like he was a 400 runner. We were sitting in the stands saying, how the speed. That young man is incredible, and he dominated that field. I get it. He doesn't have the number one time in the nation. He's, I think, 3 or 4. But the way he ran that, I feel more comfortable now with taking off, the rotating glasses and saying, I don't know, Nico. I think you got someone that can really give you a run for your money because he's got, to me, something I don't think Nico kind of fully has. He's a great runner, really good runner. But if you were to ask me who could outsprint the other, I think he could outsprint Nico. That's just me. That's with the eye test. That's what I saw because the last 3 laps, I'm like, is he getting faster? Like, how are you doing this after having run so many laps? Clearly, he was not phased. And seeing North Carolina in person, the program is clearly on the up and up when it comes to their distance runners. They literally are on a whole new level. I don't even remember the last time I seen North Carolina men have this quality of distance runners. I've seen it from the women. I remember runners like Alice Schmidt and other great 800 runners. But to see him perform was such a treat. And he was part of what made me experience a great ACC conference championship. And then on the women's side, Brianna Liston prevails over Jason Sears. And I'm going to say prevails because if you've seen that video go around the internet, Jason Sears got out and she looked like she was getting ready to drop a hammer of a time until she pulled up with an injury, which just really disappoints me because I was hoping, I'm like, I really want to see this young woman compete at the Olympic trials because I think she's got a shot at making it. And it's not, we don't know what the severity of her injury is, and I don't want to speak any ill over her, but that was just a disappointment. And hats off to Brianna Liston, who's having a great year. 10-9-1 to win the SEC title. Really young talent out of Jamaica. I think she's clearly living up to the hype, and going to LSU was the smart decision. Mackenzie Long over Jamesha Ford, and I did mention this in the preview, that although Jamesha Ford had the number one legal time, Mackenzie Long had already beaten her. She already had that in the back of her mind, and she showed it here. Because Jamesha Ford didn't run no slouch time. She ran 22-1. But 22-03 over that 22-1, and as solid as Mackenzie Long looked, and as great as that 4x1 looked, because they were second overall, beating LSU, only lost to Tennessee, things on the rise for Ole Miss, but specifically for Mackenzie Long, because that's not a name we're going to be forgetting. She is now the favorite, because she now is 2-0 versus Jamesha Ford in the outdoor season. And again, the SEC 4x1 for women, 3 teams, 42-4. Tennessee, Ole Miss, and LSU. I mean, it was nice to see USC on the Pac-12 join the sub-43 party. No Big 12 team as of yet. I think Texas is kind of having a step back year. Not as explosive as they were last year. I think, obviously losing Rashida Edelic and Julie, Julian Alfred kind of hurt that 4x1. But I think they'll be back because they have some great recruits, and obviously Edric Farrell knows how to coach. I mean, he's everywhere he's been. His athletes have been phenomenal, and that's going to continue. The Arkansas 400, I did mention. Just, I mean, your slowest 400-meter runner runs a 50.7. Like 4 or 5 years ago, that would have won a national title. You have three sub 50 400 runners. If you were a country, Arkansas would legit be a medal threat. A legit medal threat. That's not being funny. That's not being cute. That's legit. 49.3, 49.4, 49.5. They just run the times that they ran based off those splits. You're looking at a team that legitimately can possibly run sub 319. That's a medal contender, and in certain years, that's the gold medal winner. Just saying. And Parker Valley versus everybody. Everybody's catching L's from her. It don't matter what it meant. Oh, I decided I want to run the 5K at the SEC championships after having broken the NCAA record indoors. And I'm going to just run a comfortable, dominant performance on my home track. Parker she's on a different level. And I think we knew that when she was a freshman. Like, I mean, you're competing against another legendary 5,000 runner at the time, but she just didn't seem to be phased, and she continues to be unfazed. She's ranked number 2 in the country, but she beat the number 1 runner. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. We're going to keep seeing her perform at a high level. So, Parker Valby versus everybody. And our anchor leg, we're going to look at the team title picture, and I'll be short here, but Arkansas men are surging. That 4x4 solidified. They know that if we can put people in the right position, laying in the 200. And I saw in some chats, who's going to tell Lang that he's not a 100-meter runner? He's a 400-meter runner. Because he ran that 44-1 split. Everybody saw it. But he's a great 200-meter runner. They do have some guys that can score in the distance events. Have some hurdlers. Of course, they got those jumpers. Arkansas men are surging. They are. And Texas A&M has such depth. Even without having their team not be at their A game, they still gave a really solid performance. And I think they're going to be a hard beat come from NCAA championship season. I think the reason why they had the number 1 at one point was solidified because we saw it on display this weekend. The team who is currently number 1 that I'm quite positive will lose their number 1 ranking is Florida. Again, I don't hide the fact that I am a Florida Gator fan. I'm a big fan of Coach Holloway and his coaching. But I'm quite positive that he was extremely disappointed at how his team performed in front of the home crowd and those alums, specifically the sprinters. It just seemed that they were flat. Like the 400, they're about 5 guys deep. And only one got to the finals and he finished 8th. And they have 3 or 4 guys capable of running 44 performances. This team is capable of a lot more, and I think there's going to be a conversation. The irony is that they didn't necessarily have the best SEC championships last year, but they rallied at the NCAA championship meet. I expect for the next 3 or 4 weeks for there to be a different tone coming from Florida, specifically the men. I think it's very clear the women are practically depleted. They've had some transfers, some injuries. I think they'll probably really have to dive deep into that transfer portal and maybe look at making some changes internally because this did not look like a typical Florida team. To see them not even be able to field a 4x4 on the women's side was a little disappointing. But LSU on the women's side is for real. In fact, this looks like those LSU teams of old. And the best part, it's a mix of youth and veteran. So LSU's going to be around for a little while. They've hit their stride with developing their sprinters the way they want to, developing their hurdlers the way they want to, and they always get flack for not having a great women's 400-meter hurdle program. But Ella Ochanuwiwo, 50-point in the 400. It's just that so many athletes went sub 50. I want to say it was 4 or 5. Because let's not forget, Aaliyah Butler ran a 49.7. Yeah, forgot to tell you, fourth place was 49.7. Yeah. It would have won every other conference going away, except for the SEC, you get fourth. It's such a humbling conference. Arkansas will make things tough for LSU. I think they proved that they have phenomenal depth. They're going to have a 4x4 if they use their A squad. They're going to be able to score in the 4x1. They have some hurdlers. Curious to see what happens with Rachel Glenn, because it looks like she's injured. Is she going to be able to perform in the high jump the way we want her to? Because she did not win, and neither did Lamar Addison. Surprise, surprise, it was Elena Yulichenko of Georgia who just again, she shows up outdoors and she showed up here. SEC has really kind of been her thing, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But man, what a weekend. Great meets, great performances. I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to let you watch those really great 200-meter runners. Thank you for always listening. Please subscribe, like, share, comment. I want us to engage because we got a lot to talk about in the comments. So please reach out. I look forward to chatting with you all. And again, thank you for your support. Our next video will be a regionals preview. Thanks again.
And it'll be 2058 for Rose. As they go to the with Judson